I'm Luke Akehurst, the director of We Believe in Israel, which is a grassroots network of British supporters of Israel. We are running a petition to try and persuade the Co-op Group, the country's 6th largest supermarket, to drop the boycott that it has of a number of Israeli fruit and veg suppliers. The first thing you need to understand is how inconsistent their policy is. So their boycott is on the basis of their human rights and trade policy. This sounds fantastic. I'm not just a supporter of the values of the cooperative movement, I'm a supporter of human rights, and human rights set out in a number of foundational documents, particularly the UN's Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So it talks about everyone having the right to life, liberty and security of person, no one being held in slavery or servitude, no one being subject to torture or cruel, inhumane or degrading treatment or punishment, no one to be subject to arbitrary arrest or detention or exile, everyone is entitled to full equality in a fair and public hearing by an independent tribunal, etc., etc. These are really important rights that every human being is entitled to. So if you were going to decide who to trade with, you'd think you'd look at the overall record on human rights of the country, particularly if your policy is actually called a human rights policy. But weirdly, the Co-op's policy on human rights doesn't look at any of those other rights. It chooses to pick on the specific issue of whether the status of a designated region or state is considered illegal by the international community. And that leads it to only apply its human rights policy to two places: the Moroccan occupation of the Western Sahara and Israeli settlements in the West Bank. And I think this is highly discriminatory. To take a look at all the other countries that they could have targeted a human rights policy at, let's have a look at the Freedom House rankings for freedom in the world 2018. They score every country on how free it is, i.e. how many of those fundamental human rights that I was talking about get broken, whether countries are dictatorships that arbitrarily detain people, torture them, deny them the most basic human rights. And strangely, when you look at the top 50 places, you have to go a very long way before you would get anywhere near the territories that the Co-op does actually boycott. So let's start from the really worst, the worst countries, the worst places there is to be a human being and to have any rights. Syria, there's no Co-op boycott. Tibet, there's no Co-op boycott. South Sudan, there's no Co-op boycott. Eritrea, there's no Co-op boycott. North Korea, there's no Co-op boycott. Turkmenistan, there's no Co-op boycott. Equatorial Guinea, there's no Co-op boycott. Saudi Arabia, there's no Co-op boycott. Somalia, there's no Co-op boycott. We even get into other territories where there is a territorial dispute. That's the case with Crimea, but there's no Co-op boycott. South Ossetia, there's no Co-op boycott. We've mentioned Western Sahara, that does get captured by them both. But Tibet, which is the second worst country in the world in terms of freedom, there's no Co-op boycott. I could go on through the list of revolting dictatorships where there's no boycott. But Israel, a country that actually scores in the top 60 in the world in terms of freedom, there is a boycott applied to certain Israeli companies. We think that's a double standard. We think it's discriminatory. We think the policy was deliberately designed to pick on Israel because of pressure from anti-Israel campaigners. And we think the Co-op, because of its fundamental Co-op values, because it's supposed to stand for human rights, because it's supposed to stand for fairness, needs to review its policy and come up with one that is a lot fairer and more transparent. So please do sign our petition and put pressure on them.